Chapter 15. Inspiration Universal, or the Philosophy of Common Sense. Sir William Hamilton very truly says that our cognitions, it is evident, are not all second-hand. This is the keynote of his philosophy. It means, or ought to mean, when properly understood, that all our knowledge is not derived from other minds by instruction, but arises from within the mind itself, and is in reality a divine inspiration and comes to us from the living Word, the eternal Logos, which is the true light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. Cicero, in his Tusculan Questions, which is a treatise on the immortality of the soul, long ago said, "The agreement of all nations in anything must be viewed as a law of nature." On this ground he rests the proof of the existence of God and the reality of a future life. But this universal consent to a doctrine can be accounted for on no theory so well as to attribute it to an emanation from the divine mind. Common sense, or the spontaneous action of the mind, is equivalent to an intuitive perception. It is an involuntary cognition. It is a knowledge that comes to us without any volitional or conscious effort of our own, and without any process of reasoning, and is really a divine revelation. Much of our knowledge, especially that which relates to the practical uses and duties of life, comes to us in this way, and all that comes to us from without by instruction and from books, unless it can be made to rest on this basis and be made one with the decisions of the universal sense, is merely external and has little value. These cognitions at first hand, as Sir William Hamilton calls them, these fundamental facts, feelings, and beliefs are seen in their own light and prove themselves. The number of self-evident truths is much greater than the limited number mentioned as such in works on logic and mental science, and the mathematics. As the essential conditions of all knowledge, the decisions of the common sense must be accepted as true. To suppose their falsehood is to suppose that we are created capable of intelligence, in order to be made the victims of delusion, that God is a deceiver, and the root of our nature a lie. The voice of nature, when properly understood, is the voice of God. The phrase common sense, so much used in philosophy, and which was the foundation of the systems of Reid and of Sir William Hamilton, means an intuitive perception of the mind. It has been denominated by a French author as the universal reason or natural logic. The truths thus acquired were called by Leibniz instincts and the light of nature, which is only another way of affirming their divine origin. They have been called intuitions, or an inward seeing and self-evident truths, or those which prove themselves. But they are really impressions, or a light from a higher sky, of which the mind is in a state of passive receptivity. They are a divine revelation, an inspiration, or, as Swedenborg calls it, a state of perception or illustration, that is, a condition of mental lucidity occasioned by an interior, spiritual illumination. God is our light as well as our life. This seems to have been acknowledged in all ages. Hesiod closes his poem entitled Works and Days with these remarkable words: "The word proclaimed by the concordant voice of mankind fails not, for in man speaks God." There is a remarkable passage in Aristotle's Ethics which gave rise to much discussion. The problem is this: what is the beginning or principle of motion in the soul? Now, it is evident that as God is in the universe and the universe in God, that the divinity in us is also, in a certain sort, the universal mover of the mind. For the principle of reason is not reason, but something better. Now, what can we say is better than even science except God? According to this, all intellectual action is originated by the divine life within us. The principle of common sense, or the natural light which all men possess, is from the divine Logos, or Word, the emanative sphere of the divine intellect. It has been variously denominated by different philosophers as instinct, intuition, feeling, belief, faith, inspiration, and revelation. Jacobi, who has been justly called the German Plato, and who is to be classed among the profoundest of Christian philosophers, makes the foundation of all knowledge to be faith, by which he means a feeling of the truth. In the mental economy, belief takes the place of knowledge. When it rises from probability, its lowest form, to certainty, by which is meant an undoubting assurance, it comes next to knowledge. But faith is more than an intellectual belief. It is a mode of knowing. In its highest degree, it is an intuition, an interior perception. It is that which affords a knowledge of supersensible things, and gives us the assurance of their reality and truth. Whatever we feel to be true, we are compelled to believe. In this way, we gain a knowledge of what is unattainable by sense. Thus, faith becomes the highest mode of knowledge. It is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is, also, as Paul L. affirms, the gift of God, and, consequently, an inspiration. Fichte says, All my conviction is only belief, and it proceeds from feeling or sentiment, and not from the discursive understanding. When we wish to express the highest possible certainty of anything, we say we feel it to be true, and no logical demonstration can add force to this inward persuasion. Anselon, whose system is in harmony with that of Jacobi, says that belief, in the philosophical sense, means the apprehension without proof, reasoning, or deduction of any kind, of those higher truths which belong to the supersensible world, and not to the world of appearances. This internal, universal sense, this highest power of mental vision in man, seems to have much in it of the instinctive, and may, therefore, be appropriately styled intellectual instinct. For on the one hand it manifests itself through sudden, rapid, uniform, resistless promptings, and on the other hand these promptings relate to objects which lie, not within the domain of the senses, but belong to the supersensible world. Luther must have had some such idea of belief as an inward feeling or intuition of the truth when he affirmed that all things have their root in belief, which we can neither perceive nor comprehend. Who would make this belief visible, manife.st, inconceivable has sorrow for his pains. Anselm, one of the deepest thinkers of the medieval age of the Church, adopted the maxim, believe, that you may understand, where faith is taken to be one of the highest forms of knowing. Al-Ghazal of Baghdad, in the Latin translation of his works, makes it a fundamental principle that faith is the root of knowledge. But by faith, we must always bear in mind, is not meant a cold, intellectual apprehension of the truth, but a feeling of the truth. This interior light, call it what you will, common sense, the light of nature, instinct, intuition, impression, faith, the divine word that came to the prophets, a revelation, an inspiration, or even the Holy Spirit, is the highest authority within us, and the divinest light for human guidance. It should always be consulted in the cure of disease. The physician should be influenced by it in the selection of his therapeutic devices. In the mind of the patient, when left free to act without obstruction or interference, it will give a more unerring prescription than the science of medicine can furnish. For what the patient feels ought to be done is the best thing to do. It is oftentimes, if we understood it aright, a prescription written by the finger of the deity within us. By whatever name we call it, it is a divine oracle within us, whose utterances are less ambiguous and more unerring than those of Dodona or Delphi. With some slight modification of the language, which does not affect the idea, I can say with S. Baringold, the question of the truth of what the Church calls inspiration is one I do not discuss. We have a revelation in our own nature. An historical revelation, an apocalypse to others in the past, is that which we can never satisfactorily prove to ourselves. The revelation which we have in the depths of our own nature, the light and life of the eternal Word there, never grows old, and it is always there to be questioned according to our spiritual needs and to be sought unto for guidance. As the Jew went to the Urim and Thummim, and the Greek to the oracle of Apollo at Delphi, on the authority of this revelation, and not on tradition, oral or written, will the Church of the future be founded. Preface to Origin and Development of Religious Thought. There is in the penetralia, or inmost recesses, of all souls a region where a divine word will respond to our sincere craving for truth, and where divine secrets hidden from the senses will be revealed to us.